All right, our next question. How would you increase student attendance? Our first responder, Ms. Cuevas.
So there's actually a way to look at student attendance in terms of data. And the real issue is, where are we having our biggest problems with patterns and trends? Like, if there are kindergartners, do we know who they are, and are they already missing 4 days in a month? If you have those kinds of patterns, you're on a trajectory to consistently be truant. And our district has the ability, if we could then, identify what are the schools and resources that need extra supports to address those students. But the biggest failure we have is sometimes if we don't notice that, then we lose the opportunity to create an intervention. So the key is, oftentimes, we can't change what circumstances our students coming in, but we have the power to recognize when it's happening. And it's our failure when we don't. And the saddest thing are there are kids who fall through the cracks. And nobody knows that they're not coming to school. And maybe if they do, there's just a slight effort made.
Thank you, Ms. Cuevas. Mr. Phillips.
So the first thing I want to say is that I'm not the most exciting guy up here. But what you will not hear from me at all is you will not hear me throwing stones at people. I am an official. I have had the honor of representing this area on the first 5 Contra Costa Children and Families Commission for the last 2 years. I know it's hard to be a public official, and I'm not going to throw stones at people to win. But that said, increasing student attendance. If you remember at the beginning of this forum, I said there were 4 things that I wanted to focus on, and the first thing was school safety. Because if the students don't feel safe, they're not going to go. And the second thing was student engagement, because once we get them to go, if they're not engaged when they're there, they're not going to stay. So this is all based around truancy and increasing school attendance. We need to make sure they feel safe and that they're engaged.
Phillips. Thank you. Mr. Christian?
Yes, increasing the student attendance, first of all, we're dealing with truancy. We're dealing with a lot of kids that are truant, and a lot of kids, basically, students or children are being turned off of coming to school. And I know I deal with students on a daily basis as a CSO campus security officer, and I intervene and encourage a lot of our students, do not give up, do not be discouraged. Go to class, learn. And so I'm the go-to person between to help navigate our young men, our young ladies to stay in school. And so, and it's sad to say that I've seen a lot of our young people slip through the cracks, and end up going on the street, and that's where crime comes from. When they drop out of school and end up on the street, and then it causes havoc on the street. So my job as a school board member, I would engage our young population to bring about a learning process so these young people can say, hey, I want to be in school to learn, to get my education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chow?
The answer is actually quite simple. We know what will fix student attendance problems, and that is to engage the student. And the way we do that is by offering personalized learning. By personalized learning, I mean that we need to have great teachers who did exactly what they did with me when I was at Pinole Valley High School, which is to reach out and to touch the heart of every single student that walks through our doors. The way we do that is by offering personalized learning, making sure that we have great teachers, and most importantly, also having great programs. Our school district has a great program called the Student Board Member Program, where a student representative is able to serve on the Board of Education. And guess who ran? I did it when I was 17 years old, and it was a wonderful learning experience. Those are the type of programs that we need to offer to make sure that every single one of our students has a fair shake. That's how we fix the student attendance problem.
Thank you. Mr. Nosa?
So I'm actually doing some of this work right now. Through the Mission Promise neighborhood, one of the things that we're really focused on, exclusively focused on this year, is making sure that we raise our attendance rates, because being absent one day a week or one day a month is actually 2 full school weeks out of the school year. And so we're working with Attendance Matters, and what we've done within the middle school is that we do identify the kids very early on, the first few weeks of class, who we see as having an issue, and then we actually bring people out into the homes to go and meet with the families and figure out what's going on and how can we develop a plan to make sure that those kids are going to school. So those are the things that we've done. This year alone, we've increased attendance rates by 30% at the middle school from having done that. So I know that in West County, we did have a forum with Attendance Matters. I was there, and that's something that I think we have to take seriously. 1 in 4 of our students, African-American students, are truant, and so we really do have to focus on this issue.
Thank you. Ms. Block.
Well, as a couple of people have mentioned, this begins in kindergarten, so I think if we can really address the problems that students have as kindergartners, we'll be a long ways towards helping our truancy problem. As a principal, I know that it also helps when we do the little games that we do in classrooms, the competitions that we have for perfect attendance, and when we have attendance assemblies in elementary school. As the kids get older, it gets a little more challenging, but certainly programs like linked learning, where kids are involved with occupations that they could later have after graduation, are very motivating for our kids and make them want to come to school, make their school seem more purposeful. And I think that is a key for our students. So if we could increase our linked learning programs, I think that would be very helpful in reducing our truancy rate. Also, the Student Attendance and Review Board can be very helpful, and I could talk about that more later.
Thank you, Ms. Merriweather.
So one of the things that I would do to increase our attendance is increase our parent outreach. We can't blame our children, especially our elementary children, for coming to school late, because the parents bring them to school. And so I don't think we should focus, especially because in the elementary school, that's where our highest attendance is. And so I think we should educate our parents, have workshops. I know in one district they have an attendance outreach worker that works with parents in groups on how important it is to make sure that your child is at school on time.
Thank you, Ms. Cronenberg.
I think the most important solution to student attendance is our teachers. Our teachers need to really understand that they need to focus on attendance, and we need to support them in doing that. And by that I mean, once you've noticed a child who's been out a couple of days, you need to make the phone call. Teachers are the ones who have to really develop the connection to our schools, to our families, from the school to the family. And once they've done that, they'll know when somebody's not there, and they'll know why they're not there, they'll know who to call, and they'll know what the problem is. I think home visits are really an important thing if there seems to be a bigger problem. And if you address it early, the idea here is to catch it early before it becomes truancy.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens?
Yes, I'm reminded of my little cousin who went to school 7 years and never missed a day. The problem I see is average daily attendance. There's money connected with the child showing up for school. When he doesn't show up, then there's some money lost to the school. But I'm wondering if that's the concern, or is it the actual concern of the child? I have questions about that, because some children have asthma and can't come to school. They're not supported at all when they're at home, but they're really pressured to come to school, sick and ill and all kinds of things. I just want to say that the way you keep a child in school is to engage that child in a meaningful classroom. In the classes that I teach, children won't even want to go to recess part of the time. They want to stay because we're engaged in something that's exciting. So that is the answer to this. We've got to, it's all lost or won in the classroom, not in brick and mortar and buildings or anything like that. It's all won or lost in the classrooms. So we've got to figure out how to do that. Not figure out, a lot of us know. We just have to apply it. Thank you.
Ms. Young.
So I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to keep saying we have to start young, engaging our students young. You know, when you give the students, say, you know, contests and things like that, they're ready to say, oh, we have to come to school, our class will win. So there's a lot of different things you can do in the elementary level, because you can really talk to the students and get them, you know, motivated to want to come to school by doing different contests and things like that. Also, the teachers, they can intervene when they see that the students aren't there. They can call the parents. But when you get older, that's when we have the problems at high school, because what are you going to do? I'm sure that, you know, the truant high school kids their parents are not happy with that. So we do really need to focus when they're children and try to help them and engage in the classroom when they're young, because if not, when they get older, the truancy police, you know, they're talking about going to the house, but it's really the police, and they're going to start arresting parents. That is a pilot program that's happening right now in San Francisco. That is what's going to happen. So we have to engage the children when they're young.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Next question.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. There's a member of the audience with a flash on that's blinding me every time I look in that direction. If we can make sure that we turn off the flash on any cameras, that'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, you have an advantage over me. I can see you, but I can't see the audience. So if we can have some help with our assistants, making sure that that doesn't happen, we'll move forward.
Thank you so much.
Next question. Please discuss your view of adult education. Is this something that should be funded by the school district? And our first responder will be Ms. Merriweather.
So yes, I support adult education. In fact, our district has been supporting adult education. I think it's a crucial part of our education in this district. I personally have family members who have went to the adult school. A cousin went through the GED program. My own mother went to just to take classes. I think we should have classes for seniors. We have a lot of classes for our ELL parents. And it's very important for us to continue adult education, and it should be part of the school district.
Thank you. Mr. Noso.
Yes, I absolutely do think that we have to fund adult education. I know in the local control accountability plan, there are dollars that are going to adult education, specifically as it is about also parent engagement and education for children in the district. And so there's a direct correlation there. I also have a lot of family who came here, didn't speak the language, went to adult education to learn English, and also while they were there learned a lot of other skills that helped them become better parents and help them become important teachers to their children. And so I do think that this is very important. I know it's something that has been over the years in decline, and so I think it's important for us to keep it as a central part of the work of this district.
Thank you. Ms. Cronenberg.
So I taught for 30 years at Hayward Adult School, and I've got a real connection to adult education. I think adult education needs to be a part of our district on every level. For the career technical training that it offers our young adults and all our adults, people returning into the workforce for a variety of reasons. For our students who need to get their high school diplomas after they've become adults. For our parents, our English language learner parents, we have many adult programs at our school sites where parents are learning how to help their children in English. And for our older adults. I think our older adults need to continue to have the programs we've offered them. We didn't close our programs. Other schools did throughout the state. We're lucky we kept them, and now as we're working with the consortium that the state has realigned, and there's a whole new vision for where adult education will be in California, and we need to be part of it.
Ms. Cronenberg, apologize. Ms. Young.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Please discuss your view of adult education. Is this something that should be funded by the school district?
So I do support adult education. I do think that there has to be a place where we can allow people who don't finish high school to be able to get their GED. They can get their, so to make sure that they get some sort of diploma and they can go on and do bigger and better things. That being said, I don't know exactly how much money we spend on adult education, so I don't know how big the program is or how, if we should keep it as big. There are a lot of things that we need to take care of in this district. We have an unfunded liability and pension with our retirees, and it takes out, it really takes from our budget. So we really have to sit down and look at our budget to find out what it is that we can afford. Do we need adult education? Of course we do. But there are other things that we need too for our young students. And so I want to make sure that our young students get exactly what they need. But yes, I would like to see adult education stay in some fashion.
Thank you. Ms. Block.
Well, I think the adult education should be funded by the district, and there are many fine programs. There's the English as a second language for English learners. There are the literacy programs for adults who are learning to read. And then we have the fine parenting classes, which affect our young children, of course. I myself have taken 2 of the courses in adult ed. About 20 years ago, I took a public speaking course because I was really afraid to speak in public and see what it's done for me. And I also took a Spanish class. So we have a fine selection of classes, and I certainly think it's worthy of being funded by the school district.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
I think what the district needs to do is promote a culture of lifelong learning. And we start with the earliest and we end with the most seasoned. So I am a very strong supporter of adult education. In fact, I actually was a GED instructor for a while. I taught, you didn't know that, did you? Yeah, I was a GED instructor for a while. I taught English and social science courses. So yes, I support it, and I'm not going to keep talking. I support it.
Thank you. Mr. Chow.
So yes, I do support adult education because I believe it's a fundamental part of our education system. You know, when I talked with the head of the adult ed program here in our school district, I learned that 68% of participants in our adult ed program are ESL learners. That means that people who do not have English, who do not know English as a first and primary language, are enrolling in these classes to better themselves, to learn English. That's exactly what I want to promote. So I want to make sure that we do promote that. However, there is a larger systemic problem, which is that adult ed does not have a dedicated source of revenue. That's why since 2003, when Governor Schwarzenegger was sworn into office, the revenue for adult ed, the allocation for adult ed, has declined by 2/3 because there's no dedicated source of revenue. We need to work with our community college district, and we also need to work with our state legislatures to create a dedicated source of funding for adult ed so that it doesn't encroach.
Mr. Christian.
Yes, I am for adult education. I'm 100% behind it and to see it funded, and that we make sure that we find the resources to keep the money there to help support, because it provides many resources to help the adult population for those who maybe dropped out of school or so forth, but it's to help engage and to bring about ways for our adult population to be successful. So I'm for it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Cuevas.
So before I talk about adult ed, I'm going to take a step back because my last comment apparently made some folks upset with me about independence and an independent Citizen Bond Oversight Committee. In no way was I referring that Yvette Rico or the people here are not fine people. They are fine people, but I was talking about the process. I'm talking about that there's something that doesn't make sense about independence and a process. But if it makes everybody happy, I'll take endorsements from Citizen Bond Oversight Committee members too, okay? And then we'll call it even. Now back to adult education. My partner is actually a student in adult education right now. And not only is she learning English, she's learning Italian, and she's teaching other folks Spanish. She speaks Spanish very well. And I gotta say that if there's something this district does really right, it's that we preserve adult education, because it is very important, and it's meeting the needs of our students. And that's one of the things that we need to continue to focus on. So I thank our school board and I thank our superintendent for making sure that happens.
Mr. Stevens.
I totally support adult education, and I think it should be funded by the state. It should be funded by anybody that can fund it. Education is evolving, and I hate to see that when people are asking for more and more and more education, we seem to be devaluing it, and it just doesn't make sense to me. A better America is an educated America. If we don't do this and we don't sustain our continuous improvement in education, then other countries will. We're right now importing a lot of engineers, which I predicted 15 years ago we could have 5,000 shortage. It's really higher than that. So we need to educate at every level. I took photography in adult ed, and I loved it. And I'm always getting that magazine and looking to see if there's any other computer science or something that I'm not aware of. I could teach a lot of that. But I think it's great, and especially parents who need to support their children in algebra. I think we ought to teach algebra in adult ed. Thank you.
Thank you. This is our last question before the closing statement. Several of you mentioned school safety as a priority. What about disaster preparedness to ensure our schools and staff are prepared to care for our students after or during an earthquake, shelter in place, lockdown, or other emergency? Having been involved in my child's school safety committee for several years, I know there has been no support from the district to ensure all schools have the supplies we need to respond to an emergency. This is a serious issue for all schools. How would you address this if elected? Our first responder will be Mr. Phillips.
When I talk about school safety, I have a very broad view of what school safety means. And that also means that our schools are seismically safe. And I know that's something that the district has been working on, and that's something that I appreciate. As far as disaster preparedness is concerned, that's also important. And we need to make sure that every school in this district is prepared if there is a disaster, whether that means making sure that there is adequate food and water and whatnot on campus if children are not able to leave, making sure that there are safe and comfortable places on school sites if children are not able to leave, and having contingency plans for how parents are able to get their children in case there are disasters at schools. These are all extremely important things, and I consider all of this to be part of school safety. So that is something that I will be addressing if I'm fortunate enough to sit on this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chow.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I will, and I will truncate it a bit. I know there has been no support from the district to ensure all schools have the supplies we need to respond to an emergency. This is a serious issue for all schools. How would you address this if elected?
The way to address this is actually quite simple. We need to have drills, and we need to work with not just our school within ourselves in the school district, but we need to work with emergency response teams throughout the county. That includes the fire department, police department, as well as the sheriff's office. And what I think we need to do is during the summer months, right before school starts, we need to have a drill where we prepare for a disaster. So that way the faculty and the staff and the principals are all on the same page. The school district does have a disaster preparedness plan in place, but we need to make sure that the people on the ground actually have a way of implementing this plan. So what we need to do is offer more professional development days specifically to address this problem within our schools.
Thank you. Ms. Merriweather.
So a disaster preparedness is one of the drills that we do have in our schools. And the supply issue has always been an issue. Even when I was on the PTA, we had to fundraise to buy the little plastic bags with the water and the peanuts and everything in there for the students. And so that's an area that we probably can look at and see how we can have little kits for all the kids in the district. But we do have drills and we do have a safety plan that is looked at, and they go to the schools and make sure that everything is in line. So, but for that piece about having the supplies, that's something we still need to work on.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens.
Yes, I remember I was in a classroom and there was an emergency where we had to do a lockdown. I didn't feel secure at all, and the children weren't quite sure what was supposed to be done, but I know there was not much that I could do. There was nothing on the wall that told me which exit I should take and where I should go. As a substitute teacher, I was very concerned about that. I think it's really important that board members and everybody walk through and take a very good look at what's missing. In one of my classrooms, 3 people came to look on the walls to see if there was a flask, if there was this, and if there was that. They took a quick look and then walked out. I think we should do that. We should walk in the worst reported schools. We should walk in the best reported schools. We should walk and consider and imagine what it would be like if something happened all of a sudden. I don't think we do that in this district. And I'm very, very, very concerned about that. If elected to this office, we would all be in the field much more frequently than just our superintendent. I think it's important. We need to walk around. We need to see those that we govern. We need to see the facilities that we govern.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Mr. Nosa.
So I do think that this is an important issue, and I believe that there are some things that we can do. I used to work within the San Francisco Foundation, and they actually have disaster preparedness as one of the focus areas in the Bay Area to work with community organizations and schools to make sure that there are resources for not just the plans, but actually the supplies as well. One of the things in our strategic plan that was discussed was that we actually develop greater partnerships and relationships with others who can provide resources to the district. And so I think that's one of the things as a school board member I can bring is that experience from having worked within philanthropic organization to look at where can we get the resources if we do not have them in our district to do things like this. Because in my eyes, this is low-hanging fruit, and this is something that we should immediately do. During 9/11, I was across the bridge when my son was in school. So I know firsthand how hard, how much parents feel over this issue.
Thank you. Mr. Christian.
Yes, for the disaster preparedness, we have a long ways to go. Number one, if we had a 7.1 earthquake right now, we're not even prepared right now. And right now we sit on the Hayward fault line. The Hayward fault line cuts right somewhere in this area. And so we have a long ways to go. So when you look at our schools and our young people, the teachers, the faculty, staff, we have to be prepared. And I believe once a month we should have a practice on a Friday to practice these drills, because it's real. Because when you look at throughout our nation, we have a lot of stuff going on. And even where schools back east, you have a lot of people who are shooting on campus. We're not even prepared for that. So it's a lot that we have to prepare for. So you look at that shelter in place. If stuff happens and getting everybody in safely, we have a lot to do. And so as a board member, I will make sure that we get the job done and we'll practice these drills and make sure everybody's safe.
Thank you. Ms. Block.
Well, when I was a principal, we practice, I think it's very important to have drills with the entire school community one day a year where you have a drill where everyone has to evacuate to the playground. You have to take really special precautions with some of our special needs children who are very upset when they hear the alarms. But you need to practice evacuating, practice having the parents come to pick the children up, because that's one of the most difficult things when parents all rush to the school at the same time to get their kids, but you need to know where everybody is. Having water is very difficult for a few days. You realize how much space that much water takes. But these are all things that we need to practice, and we need to include our local law enforcement. And I can't emphasize enough the need to do this every year with the students and faculty. Extremely important.
Thank you. Ms. Cronenberg.
This has been a problem. the supply part has been a problem for a very long time. And I think what we really haven't done and that we do need to do now, and I'll take responsibility for it, we should have done this before now, is do a line item in the budget and say we're going to supply all our schools, because that hasn't happened. What we have now are schools that are supplied with disaster supplies by parent groups that are able to do it, and other schools that aren't. So that's an equity issue, and we just need to address it. We really do. As far as the drills, I believe we do meet the state requirements. There are all sorts of requirements for different school levels and how often they do the drills. We do them. I do think it's important to have our substitutes trained, because it's a very good point. People who are in the building who haven't been through the drills also need to at least to know where the information is in case there is an emergency for them.
Thank you. Ms. Young?
Could you say the question one more time?
I'd
Repeat
be
it,
happy
please?
to. I'll read the whole question.
All right, thanks.
Several of you mentioned school safety as a priority. What about disaster preparedness to ensure our schools and staff are prepared to care for our students after or during an earthquake, shelter in place, lockdown, or other emergency? Having been involved in my child's school safety committee for several years, I know there has been no support from the district to ensure all schools have the supplies we need to respond to an emergency. This is a serious issue for all schools. How would you address this if elected?
So we're talking about supplies, and so at my kids' school, the PTA has us take a bag, and we have to pack it with, water and fruit, snacks, and all these different foods that you could have, so that if there's an emergency, the child has something there that they can eat while they wait for their parent. Now, the problem is that every student doesn't have one, because every parent doesn't send it. So that's the issue. What I would say is that the school board members need to go to the schools and find out who has the supplies. If they do not have the supplies, then they need to make sure that the schools have the supplies. If they can't afford them, they can work with the community to make sure to see what the community can donate to the school. But the simple answer is that every school board member should go down to the schools and find out what supplies are needed from each school. And if we do that, we can get the schools the supplies they need.
Thank you. Ms. Cuevas?
So I want to be very specific, and lots of folks are talking about how we don't have enough money for earthquake supplies. And then I want to point out that then at the same time, we're funding student activities to $100,000 that could be paid other ways, and that was an opportunity then to spend that $100,000 on earthquake supplies for our schools. But you see, at the moment when those decisions are being made, it becomes politicized, and school board members become, sometimes they become politicians. I've worked for a school board member before. I've worked with school board members. I've been the chief of staff to a school board member. I understand the dynamics. I've also served as a staffer to a state legislator, and I know the interplay, the coordination that would be necessary. But most of all, it's an issue of communication. How many of you know what you would do if swine flu broke out, or if Ebola broke out, if an earthquake happened, if there was violence? Has the district informed you? Do you know? Can you say, I know what I would need to do?
Thank you.
We could start there too. That doesn't cost anything.
Ms. Cuevas, thank you. That concludes our questions for this evening. We will now have our closing statements, and we'll start with Ms. Cronenberg.
So, you've heard all of us, and this is actually, we've got one more time to hear us. We have one more community forum like this at Richmond High. But, and I hope you come to that. But if you don't, thank you for your time tonight. I'm Madeline Cronenberg, I've been on the board for 8 years. My real commitment to you is around our goals in the school district for our whole child, whole community. My commitment is that we will continue to grow and service our children in every way. Our whole child commitment is to the academic needs of our child, to the social needs, and to the physical needs. To the community, it's to grow the community and connect with our communities, to connect with our parents, to connect with our teachers, to support our teachers, to make sure our teachers get everything they need to be able to be the great teachers we know they are, and to connect with our community groups so that the community groups who populate our whole district understand that they are welcomed in our schools and we want them to be partners with us in our schools. During my time on the board, we are in much better shape than we were when I got here. We've paid off our debts, we've built new schools, we've increased our academic achievement. We're on the upswing, and I hope to be able to be here for another 4 years to continue that upswing. I really appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Block?
Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters for this wonderful evening. And I want to say that schools are so important to me. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. I grew up in Ohio, and at one point when I was a junior in high school, my parents and I moved to Chicago, and I went to, with a teacher, with my junior class, my English class, we went to a museum in Chicago, and I'd never been to a museum before. And I remember seeing, I think it was Cezanne or one of the Impressionists, and I had never seen such a beautiful green. And I'll always remember that. And that was an experience I had because of school and because of a teacher. And I get goosebumps remembering it. So I have worked in schools, and I have led a group of educators to improve student achievement. I have the ability to ask the tough questions and demand accountability from our administrators to improve student achievement. As a school board member, I will do 3 things. I'll improve student achievement, I'll demand transparency in our financials and safeguard taxpayers' dollars, and I will improve communication with the district, mainly by being more respectful to our community members and families. So I really hope that you will vote for me, Liz Block, for school board when you vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens. Mr. Stevens. Yep.
Okay, I want to thank you all for having me here, and you should also give yourselves a round of applause for being here. My life has been education from day one. My dad gave me $64 to go to a 4-year college. Right after he told me the story of how he was beaten out of a classroom when he was 4 years old. I mean, in 4th grade, he was beaten out by a teacher. He never went back. Both his parents were dead, so he never went back. So fast forward a little bit, and I grew up in Louisiana, so it was a segregated society. So when they first integrated high school, then I went to that high school so I wouldn't have to be bused so far, and I was beaten out of that high school by a mob of students. And then fast forward a little more, my daughter was in this school district in the 4th, 5th grade, and she was threatened with death. So she refused to go to school, and she's a gated child, gifted child. So I pulled her out and found another school to put her in. My son had difficulties also, so I homeschooled him. My daughter and son were both in private schools, charter schools, public schools, everything. And right now they're both successful. There's a lot wrong with this district. It's ready for change, it's ripe for change. We're all frustrated, and there's a lot of elephants in this room here that we haven't talked about yet. I know what those are. My boots have been on the ground from day one. I go back to corporate America where I taught, I studied schools, I visited schools, I've been an advisor to the superintendent in the 4th largest school district here. He later went on to become assemblyman. I'm proud of the work I did with organizing parents. I have affected the achievement of African American children. It's still 1.9, and I question anybody who says that they've raised the achievement, they've closed part of the achievement gap and all that with African American children. It's a complicated mess, and I have some complicated solutions, but they work. I'm CEO of my own corporation that's geared toward changing the landscape of education. And I want your support, because with your support, we can bring the change that is needed. Thank you very much.
Ms. Cuevas.
So again, my name is Valerie Cuevas, and I humbly ask for your support. I ask for your support because I've come up here and I told you what my ideas are for being a school board member on the issues you're concerned about. I've told you what I see as some of the problems. And I've been frank with you about what I think are some of the things we don't talk about. But at the same time, in doing that, I also have the skill set to be a good school board member for you. I've worked at the school board level, I've worked at the state level, I've actually got the opportunity to work with constituents before and understand that it's all about you. It's not about me. It's about serving you and being a great public servant. One of the best public servants that I know is Congressman George Miller, and I'm proud because he just endorsed me. To me, even if I don't win school board, I've won because I love George Miller. He's somebody who's affected change for education, and he's obviously somebody who wouldn't just hand out his endorsement to anybody. And so I've won, and I hope I can win your vote as well. There are 3 things we can focus on. We talked about what those issues are. Making sure our students read at grade level. Making sure we're sending dollars to our school sites so that the school sites can decide, hey, our earthquake kits are out of place, let's spend some money on that. Or, hey, we have truancy with some of our kindergartners, let's spend some money on that. Or, hey, you know what, somebody's not reading at the grade level we want, let's get some more reading specialists in here. The last thing is it doesn't happen, the magic doesn't happen without great teachers. And so I'd be somebody who, again, would be a cheerleader for those things. So I thank you for your consideration, and I hope that you'll give me your vote on November 4th. If you want to know more about my background and who's endorsed me, because that matters to you, please come to the website at www.valforkids.org. And at the bottom line, there's only one requirement, though, if you're going to vote for me. You have to believe in the limitless potential of all kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
So I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I want to just tell you again, the reason why I'm running is because I'm a concerned parent. I'm one of those types of people that if there's something going on and it needs to be fixed, I'm going to get out there and try to fix it. I'm not going to wait for someone else to do it. And so I want to say that I have a passion for children. I was going to be a special ed teacher, but it was just too emotionally draining for me, so I ended up being an attorney. But I still have a passion for students. I love teachers. I really honor them, and I want to see them have all the resources that they can, so that they can be successful. But the thing is, what I've noticed doing these forums is that we're all kind of saying the same thing. We all want the best for students. We all want the best for teachers. And I think that we're all really educated and intelligent enough to do that. So I think the issue then is who actually has the time to do it? Because you need to be able to meet more than 2 times a month. This is almost a full-time volunteer job. Who is going to be able to commit the time? We have a lot of people that work 40 hours a week. We have some people who can't be at these forums on time. I mean, I'm sorry, but as a parent, I want to vote for someone who's going to say all these great things, but actually have the time to implement them. Actually have the time to go on the site visits they all talked about. You can't go to site visit one time every so often. We have 57 schools here. We need to be doing site visits 2 times a week, each board member. That would be like 40 schools in a month. But we're going to have to be able to dedicate the time. And so I will tell you this. I have my own practice. I have an office in Pinole, and I have one in my house. So I am flexible. I'm ready to commit that time to 2 or 3 days a week to make sure that the school board is doing their job, that they're communicating to the community. I hope to have your support. I'll give you my best, and I guarantee that.
Mr. Phillips.
Again, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and participating in this forum. I know it gets tiring listening to us drone on and on about ourselves, but I also want to thank the League for putting this on as well. I want to talk about 2 things in closing. Why I care and why I believe that I'm qualified. Why I care, this is my home. West County is home. My family has been here for 6 generations. My grandmother went to Richmond High School. My father attended Richmond High School. I attended Richmond High School. This is my home. I care. I'm vested in this community. Why I care? I care because I have 2 young children who are going to be in the public schools in this district. That's why I care. I care because I have nieces and nephews who are in the district. That's why I care. I care because I love children, and that's why I've been working on the First 5 Contra Costa Children and Families Commission for the last 2 years, fighting for programs to help our kids. And when I say our kids, I literally mean our kids, because I really do believe we all need to look after one another's children. And that means from Hercules all the way to El Cerrito, all the way up to Kensington. This is a community. And it is my community, why I believe I'm qualified. I have approximately 6 years of classroom teaching experience. Why I'm qualified, I have had the honor and privilege of doing labor relations in 9 school districts in the Bay Area. I don't work in this one. They are all in Alameda County. But all of the things that go on, all of the HR things, that's what I do in schools. That's what I do every day of my life for a living. So this is something that I know. I'm not here to practice. I'm not here to experiment. I know this, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Christian.
First, I want to just thank the Women League of Voters for putting this event on, along with the district, putting this great event on. We thank you from the bottom of our heart. And I just want to say I'm about our young people education. Like same thing, Mr. Family Group was raised here. My family was raised here. Been here since the 40s. What do I bring to the table? I want to bring teamwork and leadership to the West Country Costa Unified School District. And I realize that education is the key that opens any door. As a community leader, I am 100% community leader. I've been involved in the community for a long time. This is nothing new to me. I've been working with our young people and with many people throughout the city of Richmond. I'm invested. I have an auntie. Her name is Lily Mae Jones. She worked so hard and diligently in the city of Richmond and have paved the way for so many things that are happening today in the city of Richmond. And I come and I'm proud to be, that's my aunt. And then as I look as a community leader, I have a vision. I want to put our students first because I want to invest into our students. I want to make sure that we have transparency and integrity and accountability in our school. I want to make sure that our pre-K through high school, improving student achievement, and every student has an opportunity to succeed and go to college. And as to make sure our safety, making sure our young people are safe, that's what I do every day. As a campus security officer, we work along with the police officers. We are the ones to bring about the resolution, and then from there, the police officers assist us to make things, help us in the situations. I'm committed all the way, and I want to be that board member that brings leadership, bring inspiration, motivation, and excitement and thrill to make this district a better district in the years to come.
Thank you. Ms. Merriweather.
I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and the district for putting on this forum. And thank you for your time, because I know that you could be at home watching the game or doing something else. But I'm asking for you to vote for me for re-election because I feel that the district is moving forward. We listened to the stakeholders. When we did our strategic plan, it took us 10 months, and we listened. And so we took that information and we put it in our plan, and we're starting to implement that. It takes time to implement change. It doesn't happen overnight. And so we have worked on it. And I said earlier that the educational landscape is completely different now. We have all these things, the Common Core, the LCAP, all these things coming at us at once. And so you need someone that's knowledgeable about these things, that will advocate at the state level and local level for increased funding for our students. And just like you, I expect high expectations of all of our students. And that's what I will work towards. That's what I've been focused on, is, addressing the achievement gap. That's why I promoted TK and full service community schools, because I know we have to start with the whole child, educating the whole child. So you have a lot of choices up here on this board, but you have to decide which one of us will serve you. serve our community, and serve our students. The decision is up to you, and I hope that you would consider me as one of those votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chow?
My mom had me when she was 17. Growing up, she never made more than $30,000. But you know what? She did a great job because she kept food in the fridge and a house over my head. That's the adversity that our kids face. And when I was growing up, I had a choice. I could either become another statistic in a tough neighborhood in Richmond, or I could choose success. The people who helped me choose success were teachers, but those teachers have since retired. And that's why I'm running for the board, because I want to make sure that we have the best teachers inside our schools. No one else before you has talked about student loan debt, and yet the student loan debt crisis has hit our country time and time again. People in my generation are saddled with lots of student loan debt. And here, our school district can become the first school district in the state of California to offer student loan debt repayment programs. We can do it. All we need is somebody who is a fresh, independent voice on the board, who isn't saddled with past baggage, but brings a fresh, independent voice to the board. That's the reason why I'm running, because I want to make sure that we reclaim the promise of a public education. Every single student that walks through our doors is entitled to a fair shake, the same fair shake that I got. That's the opportunity that my mom and her grandparents talked about when they came here to America. They talked about the American dream. And I want to make sure that every single one of our students has that fair shake. I respectfully ask for your vote so that we can make that dream a reality and keep that dream moving forward.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chow. Mr. Noso?
Thank you. So I'm a proud parent of a West Contra Costa Unified School District student, and I've been very fortunate that my son has had great teachers and been in good schools and surrounded by a supporting community. And we do have disparities that are big in this district. If we look at the math proficiency in 2012-2013, only 2% of Richmond High School students are proficient or advanced in math. Pinole High School, that's only 10% of our students. And El Cerrito High School, where we are right now, only 18% of our students are proficient or advanced in math. So that means we have a long ways to go. I was talking to a parent before this forum who said to me she sent her kid to Oakland, to a charter school in Oakland, because she didn't think that she had any good options in this district. That's a reality. I had to do that last year. My son was in a charter last year because we felt that way about our middle schools. So I really think that we have to invest in our neighborhood schools. When we looked at the strategic plan, there are a couple of things that it says, which is there's a lack of urgency in the district, a lack of trust, poor communication, and a lack of program alignment. One, I have an absolute sense of urgency. My son is going to high school next year, and we are nervous about it. So I have an absolute sense of urgency that all of our students achieve the best education that they can here in West Contra Costa. When we look at trust and program alignment, right now I'm working on a $30 million initiative that is all about program alignment. So I have on-the-ground experience that I can bring to this district so that we can work on these issues that have been identified as troubling and turn this district around. I am a complete optimist. I see the cup always as half full. I know we have amazing students in our district, and I can do more to help make sure that each of those students graduates and is ready to go on and do whatever they want to do in this world. So I hope you will elect me on November 4th.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Noso. This concludes our closing statements and our forum for this evening. Thank you, candidates, and I think we have some comments coming from Mr. Walton. I want to thank our timekeeper, Mr. Steve Collins. Great job. And Mr. Walton, you're up.
Thank you. I just wanted to, on behalf of the Board of Education, thank our candidates and our moderator for the evening, Ms. Cheryl Chambers. Can we give her a hand? And just to remind you that there is one additional forum that is sponsored by our co-sponsors, the League of Women Voters and the district, on Monday, October the 20th at Richmond High School. We hope to see you there. Thank you and good night.